right, here we go, swimming back up, continuing our Let's Play inside. Thank you for joining me. I am BeBetterGamer, joined by my wife,
DrunkenHomemaker here.
and we just finished coming away from the Sonic Boom room.
That's what we're calling it.
And now we are, at this point, I remember when I was first playing it, at this point, I didn't know, I had given up trying to, expect to see something that I already could think about in my mind, because seeing the girl in the water, seeing the mind control device, seeing that big Sonic Boom room, this game has been throwing so many things at me and we still don't really even know where he's going, what he's looking for.
And we're still there. We're there with them. Like, there's not a moment of like, well, I don't know what's going on and this is annoying and I don't want to play this game anymore. No, yeah. You're just surprised at every corner that you turn, and then you're just like, I don't know what's happening, but I want to keep going.
We have to talk about the fact that when we first played this game, we played it in 2 sittings.
Yeah, we did.
We played it in 2 sittings. Good. The first sitting ended right where pretty much the first episode ended, where we went to the thing. And then as we were going through, it was really late. We started late. But I think it was like when we got to the Sonic Boom room, we was like, no, there's no turning back.
Yeah, it's once you get to that room, you're just like, I have to see what is happening. I need somebody to tell me, and you don't really get answers.
You don't.
And that's the thing, is like,
you have to kind of put it together for yourself at the end. Yeah,
which I guess we should talk about a little bit here now that we're doing these puzzles.
Here's another.
So here's. See, observation. This is like an observation room. No, is this the observation room? Or is that
I love that leaning against the glass.
So cool.
I just love it. I just want to make.
Why is your hair so long?
You can take
so many questions,
right? You can take so many moments throughout this game, and they can all just be your wallpaper for your computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a beautiful game.
It's a beautiful game in its design. It's very minimalistic compared to a lot of modern games. But it's so striking visually, and there's so many tableaus that make you just look in awe and wonder. And I don't remember a game, that has ever really, moment by moment, I can look at and say, wow, every part of this game is beautiful, but also terrifying. you know?
It is a beautiful game, in spite of how dark it is.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies if you can hear our dog snoring.
Oh, she snores.
She's snoring pretty loud. I keep turning around because I keep expecting to like see one of our kids, but instead it's just her snoring.
We go there, and of course we're like, oh, she's gonna wake up, isn't she?
She's gonna wake up.
She's gonna wake up. There she is.
Yeah, and look at the way she swims is so, like, I guess aggressive, that it's kind of scary. And just the fact that, like, why is it only when he's in the water? You know what I mean?
It's probably like that sense, like that.
She only moves when he's in the water, though, which begs the question: who is controlling her? Are we controlling her in a way? You know what I mean? Is that? Yeah. Is the huddle controlling her? Because the only time that she moves, like the gray people, is when you're in the water.
I mean, that's a great point, because again, if we're tied to the huddle, then as soon as we enter the water, she's gonna pick up the frequencies of the huddle and come to us.
Yeah.
So that's actually a great point.
Thank you. I make great points sometimes.
That's why I got you. That's why I brought you here. And you're not even drinking. I'm not even drinking
my Moscow Mule this time. I know. Doing this one dry.
Yeah. The dry homemaker. But these puzzles were cool too. The having to, lead her one way, then swim around and like get her, it was quite horrifying. And the first time we played it, I remember I got caught quite a few times by her.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to it, it's like, okay, so they're doing research on people to get them to breathe underwater. All right, for what end? What is the purpose of that? Why would we need that in the world?
And why little girls?
Because
they're only little girls.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 or 4 different ones that we encounter.
Did they take one girl and clone them?
Right, because they look the same too.
They all look the same.
And why the long hair? There's just so many questions.
Yeah.
Oh, so weird. So many questions. Is this it's kind of terrifying, but going off of what you just said about, are they cloning this girl? Is this his first go around? Did they clone him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. How many times has he died, and how many times has he been cloned to be able to complete this task?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of, and then what are they testing? There's just a lot that we don't know.
And why is it that this is the Truman Show exit?
Oh yeah, the Truman Show exit.
When we first played this game, we both had this thought. It's like, oh my god, it's the Truman Show.
Truman Show exit. And if you haven't seen,
the Truman Show, you don't get the reference. Watch the Truman Show.
Please stop this video immediately.
It's one of our favorite movies.
Go watch that, because that was one of those movies. Yeah. Which is why, I mean, and the thing is, that's why I'm going to go back to. This is a game that borrows. It borrows from other sources. And it's unfair to say that it's just American sources, because we are Americans, so sometimes we're a little bit biased and we see the world through, I think it was earlier we were talking about something where you were like, yeah, but that's not something that happens. That would never be allowed. And I was like, right, in our country.
That's true, yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, but that exit just, it looks like
the Truman Show.
It looks like the Truman Show exit.
Who,
and
for
I
all we know,
say,
could have stole that from a foreign film.
Right, exactly. And it's like, like I said, we're seeing it through the American goggles, I guess you can say. But and then, moving forward, when we go into that room with the people in the water, suspended in the water, it feels not exactly, but it just feels sort of reminiscent of like the Matrix.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Where it's like the harvesting of the people. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So that's, I do think that he borrows,
and the Matrix,
which is not a bad thing.
Which is not a bad thing. The Matrix borrowed, and
absolutely.
But it's all because these are, it's like, it was in theater, when we studied theater history, this whole concept of writing plays that are going to be, they're going to hold up for what's going on now, but will they hold up 50 years from now, 100 years from now? It's dealing with concepts and ideas that are timeless. And, the Truman Show, is dealing with concepts and ideas that I think people are still going to be talking about and questioning hundreds of years from now. I think the beauty of this game is that it's dealing with stuff that has been timeless, will always be timeless. We will always be questioning if what we're doing through our power of our own choice, or are we being pulled to do something even if we don't realize it, but we always are. No matter what, our actions are always going to be defined by some external force.
Right.
And how can we break free of that? Is it even possible to break free of that? Or is it easier to just sort of accept that fate? And especially now in today's society with technology, and I think a lot of the big fears that people have is that technology is going to enslave us, that we're not going to be able to escape technology's grasp and sort of controlling us and making us this hive mind. This game also deals with a lot of that too, because a lot of the things that we see are based around science and experiments and technology. It's not, and we're to blame for that. We're to blame for the people who think that, they, in this game, like I said, like, why would you start doing experiments on people to see if you can get them to breathe underwater? What would be the end goal for that?
And it doesn't seem very far off from what's happening in the real world now, which is it's crazy when you hear some of the stuff that they're doing right now. That stuff just makes me nervous sometimes because I hear about it and I'm like, I don't know if that's a very good idea. Like the fact that you have like Elon Musk being like, the AI stuff is getting kind of scary, guys. We should be afraid of this. And it's like, hey, you don't have to talk me into Elon Musk. I'm on your side. We should be terrified of this stuff. But yeah, it's we're living in times that are like Black Mirror is one of the most popular TV shows. And Truman Show is perhaps more relevant now than when it came out originally, because reality TV and all that stuff is a thing now. So
this is the moment. This is the turning point.
Yeah, because that was that moment where I was like, I kept telling you, I was like, you gotta. Sorry, that was
Roxy. She woke up.
Just see what happens. See if she kills you, right? And so here you have this really long, drawn out.
It's all in shadow.
He's drowning.
He's dying.
Yeah, he's drowning. Which
he's dead.
Yeah.
There's no. I mean, I haven't done research on drowning, but I don't think there's like any point in between where it's like No, you could still survive it.
You can survive it, absolutely.
Yeah?
You can, because you've seen a bunch of people, like, you know, like, have been pulled up, you know, on the beach of, like, you know, they swallowed a lot of water, and, you know, their lungs were filled with water. They're going to be in pain for the next few days, but if you get the water out and they continue breathing, yeah,
and
absolutely.
This is the first time you're, like, in complete darkness.
So cool.
Which, you know, in Limbo, there's a lot of darkness and then coming back into light. But this is the first time. And this is, again, another moment in the game where a lot of people start comparing it to Limbo. And that, you know, the games are connected because of this point of him dying and coming back to life.
And the palette also is of the underwater is very reminiscent of Limbo.
Yeah.
And then here's the school of
Here's
fish.
the fish that follow you. And at first you think, oh, they're picking at you because you're dead.
Right.
And I actually, you know, I have this memory, this horrible, horrible memory of one time standing. It's not that horrible, but to me it was, because I was a young kid and I was at like a pet store and I was standing by the fish tanks and looking, and I remember just seeing all these fish swimming, and then all of a sudden they start attacking this one fish. They start attacking him and hitting him, and then this fish just turns, starts floating up, and the fish is dead. So when I was playing this the first time, that memory came back to my head, and it's just, that's what I thought. It's like, oh, they're going at him because he's dead.
Right.
But then when you start to move,
yeah, it's just like, what is happening?
And he panics because it looks like he's like, wait, I can breathe?
Right.
But then they follow him.
What is that thingamabob? What are those thingamabobs?
You know, they look like another body in the water.
Right, but
it looked like another body in the... You know? And again, we're so deep in the water, but again, we see more of this, another building underwater. Yeah. There's another girl in the background that's not moving, that's not following you. It just makes you wonder.
Is that another girl?
Maybe not. Maybe no, it's not a girl actually. Now that I'm looking at it, it looks like just another body.
Yeah, no, it is definitely another body. Yeah.
Another body. I thought at
or
first.
Or it's the ghost from Ghostbuster that's on the.
Wow, you're reaching.
It's a very specific shape. Stop.
But
Roxy.
yeah, Roxy, what's going on with Roxy? But yeah, you know, this is just another moment. And again, like I said before, I was done trying to like kind of guess what was going to happen next.
It's like there's no way I'm not going to guess this.
This is another moment. Like, wait,
and you were right.
I just died, and now I'm back.
Yeah.
And now I'm swimming on the water.
Yeah.
And again, it makes you flip.
And look at all those. I mean, you just see a bunch of like just people,
yeah.
body parts. It's so creepy. Wait, is that person moving? Go back.
I think it just comes, you know, it's just one of those moments. But again, it changes your perception now. It's like, oh, she was trying to help us.
Yeah.
Question mark, which would tie into the fact that maybe they were making these experiments using the technology they were getting from the huddle or from whatever. And then they started becoming self-aware and sort of maybe fighting back. So maybe these people, you know, caused this thing these facilities to come underwater. But how powerful did they become to do this?
This thing just popped into my head because we were talking about earlier, actually, when we were eating dinner with the girls. It was, you know, why for both of them is it a little boy? Why in this game specific? Well, and Limbo, there's just a bunch of children. But in this game in particular, you have a lot of like the adult gray people, but the alive people that they're sort of, you can argue, are controlling remotely, are children.
Are the kids.
Why?
They're the protagonists. Yeah.
Why?
And it's a boy and a girl. And it's something we were discussing when we were playing Limbo. We'll talk more in depth when we get to Limbo about the boy and the girl, but I think there's a specific relationship there that the developer is trying to hint at in Limbo with the boy and the girl. And I think here, with your character and the girls that you meet, I think there is some sort of connection between them that maybe might be aware about, or at least he's not aware about. And like you mentioned before, it's like if as soon as he hits the water, those frequencies of the huddle are getting, you know,
or at least this is what we think.
Or this is what we think. If those frequencies are attracting, so she's being in tune to that. He might not realize that
but
yet.
why children?
Why
is
children?
The question that I'm asking.
Because they're innocent. I think children have always represented innocence.
Children are more impressionable.
Children aren't going to all of a sudden be like, you know what we should do? We should try to figure out if we can do experiments on other kids, and see if they could breathe on the water.
But realistically, I mean, but not just that, but speaking about the mind control aspect, and speaking about what's happening now in the world, and when you talk about ideas that are sort of very complex, like racism, people are not born racist.
That's true, yeah.
It's an idea that is it's put to children or taught to children,
and I think that's why we see so
adults.
And I think that's why we see so many children earlier on in the game that are standing next to
the adults
who are conducting these experiments, who are buying and selling these people.
Right. And it's very reminiscent also. I'm going to say it. I know it's super just like, you know, unless you're a theater person, you're not going to get this, but it was an audition that we went to for my oldest daughter for a play by Carol Churchill called Far Away. And it starts with, you know, these people that are all bloody and everything. And this little girl asking, why are these people bloodied? What is my uncle doing to them? And the aunt just sort of explaining away, these are bad people. There's a reason why they're here. Or he's gonna save them, and how impressionable children are.
Yeah.
And how to a child that must be very traumatic. And these are children that are living in this world. This is what they're seeing. The first thing that we see this boy do is escaping from adults who are trying to kill him. Because he was in an area where he's probably seen too much, or because he's escaping from a facility where they're doing experiments on him, or like why this is something that these children are living firsthand, you know? Yeah. And I remember in the play it sort of being a thing where it's like, you know, the aunt trying to explain away that stuff, and the little girl saying, but there's kids there too. Like this is happening to children. It's not just bad people that were, you know, that did bad things. It's children too. So how can you explain that, you know?
Yes.
And so this is a world that we're living in where children are being harmed also.
And going back to our very first episode, to the very beginning of the game, when we played it the first time, I was just completely you know, not in shock, but like one of the first deaths you can get is being shot by a grown-ass person.
Like a grown man.
You know, and that says a lot. That says a lot when an adult can very freely kill a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, how many movies, how many shows have we
Think
watched
of the children.
where when a kid does get murdered by an adult, it's always presented as this very big deal. Like there's always like that person.
Oh, it's supposed to be traumatic. Think like, you know, Pan's Labyrinth, and
there's even a thing in Breaking Bad, you know, when a child gets murdered by an adult, and it's just like we've come.
It's the worst thing.
It's the worst thing I think an adult can do.
Right.
Besides murdering another adult, is murdering a kid,
an innocent child.
You know, and. Yes, we very much live in a world where kids aren't protected, kids aren't safe. No. And again, has that happened because of necessity, or has that happened because people have just become so okay with following whatever that whatever has these very, like, you know, messed up ideas of what the world should become, you know? There's another game that came out recently called Wolfenstein 2 that actually the guy who did the audio design for Inside, he did a little bit of Wolfenstein 2, Martin Stig Anderson. And it's interesting that they brought him on for Wolfenstein 2 because Wolfenstein 2 is a game where you're living in like sort of this like Elseworlds version where like the Nazi, like, World War II didn't end. And like the Nazis actually became more powerful. And in Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus, the new one, they invade the U.S. and they actually succeed in invading the U.S. and sort of taking over. And the developers said that the main reason why the Nazis were able to do that was because most of the American population just became complacent and they were okay with it. And he wanted to make it a commentary on what he sees in the world today.
Right.
But there's a lot of groups that are rising up, a lot of hate groups and stuff are rising up, and people are becoming complacent and not doing anything.
Right.
And I feel that way when I play this game. When I see all these experiments being done, when I see the children being hurt, and it's like, people are just cool with this. People are okay with this. Like, you know, like
no. And I always go back to the example of. I always think back to, and you stop me, and you could edit this out if like it's if you feel like it's getting too like political. But like, I always think back to a comic book like The Watchmen.
The Watchmen, yes,
right, where you have that moment in the actual comic where, you know, it is some children that you know end up being the victim of this like alien monster from outer space that you know, Dr. Manhattan brings to sort of shock people into action, into doing something to change.
No, Ozymandias did it.
Oh yeah, that's right, Ozymandias. But no,
Dr. Manhattan was blamed.
He was blamed. That's right. Okay, yeah. So edit it so it sounds like I'm right.
Well, I think actually, so I think in the movie version they blame Dr. Manhattan, whereas in the comic Ozymandias made this like monster that teleported.
Right. But not only that, but like Dr. Manhattan is totally cool with it at the end of the comic book, because he ends up killing Rorschach because Rorschach is like, this is wrong. I'm going to tell everyone what you guys did.
Yeah.
And that's why Dr. Manhattan ends up killing Rorschach. But we digress. The point is that in that comic book, the act of children dying, the consequence of children's lives ending was sort of the thing that was going to cause change, right? So that was Ozymandias' idea, was like, I'm going to do this thing that's going to make everybody change, and everyone's going to do the right thing.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
I know where you're going. Yeah. I know exactly where you're going with this.
Mm-hmm. And the world that we're living in now, without getting to, you know,
it doesn't seem like children dying matters to certain people.
It doesn't seem like it matters to anyone.
Yes, that's very true.
Because it hasn't changed. And I mean, this is not the first instance of it. I remember just being shell-shocked years ago when Sandy Hook happened. And then, you know, just feeling like, you know, now with what's going on and how many shootings there's been since the beginning of this year, and we're in March.
But it's also like again, going back to stories that are timeless and universal, this concept of something like that has been happening across human history.
Yeah.
Since the dawn of time, we can look back and find out about not just whole cities getting slaughtered and massacred, but children as well. I mean, you referenced early on in the, you know, we talked about it with the color of his shirt, referencing Schindler's List.
Yeah.
You know, the Holocaust, going back to the slaughtering of, you know, in Asia, you know, the wars over there that happened many, you know, hundreds of years ago. There's so many instances of that. And again, it's themes that this game is touching upon, is that like, if the hive
universal.
If the hive mind is okay with it, then it's just going to keep happening.
Right.
And unless we separate ourselves from that hive mind, we'll never be truly free. We'll never be truly free to escape evil and the wars and the slaughtering of innocent people, of innocent children, the you know, contamination of our earth, the contamination of everything. It's that idea that if large groups of people or societies are okay with something, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna keep happening, and history repeats itself. And what we're seeing going on today, I think, is just a reflection of something that has been going on and on and on for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years even. And it just makes you wonder, like, when is it gonna stop? When is it gonna stop? Because, and again, like we were talking about in the beginning, you have the people getting pulled away in the truck, and then you have the people watching the truck. What's the difference?
Right.
Why do these people get to stay?
Why do they get to live? Why do
and
the
live
people get
and
to die? Yeah.
Why do these people get to die? And here we're in another part too, where now we're seeing
this is the Matrixy part.
these floating, disembodied, you know.
And this seems like it's an experiment as well, because
totally. Anytime you see stuff floating in water, that's an experiment.
Yeah, that's an experiment, right? That's like the code signal for this is an experiment.
This is an experiment, guys.
But yeah, but also, like, I'm almost wondering, because the people who are suspended in the water right now are all adults. So I'm wondering if this is also like them trying to get it right, transferring what they were able to do with this young child now to adult prototypes and failing. Because one of the best parts of this game, and this is gonna sort of show my true colors of the, like, kind of messed up sense of humor that I have, but one of the best parts of this game is like when you're like running around with those people who are like they've been floating in the water and their like limbs are falling off because human bodies are not designed to sort of be in water all the time, right? Especially once they're dead. Yes. So it seems like almost like are they trying? And then somebody comes into this area, right, while you're working.
I think later on.
Yeah, somebody comes in
because later on you go above.
Yeah, so you actually do see.
It's like they're growing them. That's what I always.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
what I always.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how I pictured it. I remember when we first played it and going back. It seems like this is where they're growing them. This is where they're growing the dismembered bodies that you can mind control. Because again, so
you think that these are parts for the huddle? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe, or this is what they've been able to pull from the huddle to sort of create. You know, maybe it's a combination of both. They've taken the gray people.
Is this where
we're speaking of the huddle, this is it. This is the penultimate moment before we get to what this game is all about. This is one of the many moments we're going inside something else.
Yeah.
And we're getting closer and closer inside, but this is probably the most like, this is it, guys. This is when it's going to get real. And we're going into the orb, not knowing yet, this is again going to be reflected when we reach the huddle. We're going to see it again, and we're getting closer and closer. So what waits us next?